The nefesh is an entity chai b'yetzim. It's an atzmi, but it's chai b'yetzim. It's called toyer hashlila, and that's what the Rebbe goes through along. This is for maskirim, so to speak. But the Rebbe goes through a tremendous effort to make a point that toyer hashlila is also a toyer. Because normally toyer hashlila means you're just negating something, so you're not identifying any presence. There's no toyer hashlila is also a toyer, except it is not a toyer that identifies, that limits the presence of this entity. And it's called toyer hashlila, but it's also a toyer. Identifies it with some kind of a presence. Okay, so now we start inside. As I said, this is 7 lines from the bottom. AyinBase 7. As for example, when you say toyar chacham, he is a chacham. So there is different ways of referring to toyar chacham. Finally, you say, and a human being says, so you know, is a chacham. As a chacham means that he practiced, he developed this chacham. That's mean chacham. Then there is another kind of chacham. Toyar chacham only lishlol hahepech. Not chacham. We say chacham by the Beis. Chacham is not because he's developed his chachma, but he's a chacham be'etzem. Then this chacham is only lishlol hahepech is only to negate, to eliminate the thought of hepech that is absent of chacham, but not identifying his chachma per se. Harei zeh chacham be'etzem. That one is a chacham be'etzem, which means he is definable. He is a chacham be'etzem. Rak, except she'ein b'bchinas chachma yidiyah. He is not b'bchinas chachma yidiyah. He is not in a state. He's not identifying chachma yidiyah means identifiable chachma. Chachma yidiyah. Chacham is something which is a little closer home. We know what Chacham is. Not Chacham be'etzem, but nevertheless we know what Chacham is. There are different types of Chacham. Usually, in our ranks, a Chacham excels in one Chachma or another. He had delved into one pursuit and developed his means of understanding to a great depth. And with that, he understands other things as well. But he does not have an equal access to every kind of Chachma. He hasn't developed a presence of Chachma. This means a presence of Chachma, like we said, a presence of wealth. He has a presence of Chachma, except this Chachma is very, very greatly developed, very deeply developed, and therefore he can understand other things as well. I remember just, this was like a laughing stock to me. Bobby Fischer. Anybody? A chess master. Chess master. I remember studying with some people I was in the office. That's real intelligence. A chess master, that's real intelligence. It's a joke. He's a total idiot, Bobby Fischer. He didn't have a bit of common sense. Real intelligence. He had a certain knack, a certain tendency, whatever it is, a natural understanding of this chess game and the method and all of it is. And he was really a master. He was a master from very early age, early. I mean, almost like a child. He was winning the biggest masters. But to say that this is intelligence, intelligence is something which represents a neshama, a living neshama. The real Torah of Chacham is one whose Chachma is actually representative of the broadness and the reality of the neshama. And I want to pursue this a little further. We speak about this all the time. A person can adapt to almost any situation. You can be born in America and then move to China. A totally different culture, totally different environment. Architecture, everything is different. And it won't take long before you orient it around. Their language seems totally strange. Their script is totally out of whack. But nevertheless, you can learn it and adapt it and feel comfortable in it. How is that? The practice Chochmah it doesn't possess that orientation. We're used to breaking down a word into syllables, into sounds, letters. Symbolism. Know that this is not in our mode of writing or presentation, and this is a completely different thing. And yet, you can learn it. Why? How can you learn it? It may very well be that in your conscious chokhmah, this is totally strange. But you possess it in your neshama. As a human being, you can understand, can adapt to anything. So if you're thrown into that environment, and you have to learn it, you bring out from your neshama that chokhmah, that sense. There's nothing that human neshama cannot learn, because neshama represents a godly truth, and you can learn anything. Yesterday, I had a conversation. I'm going in there because it's important. It's a very rich union. The Rambam speaks about a person has a certain midah that he has to correct. So he says, how do you correct a midah? You go to the opposite. And you practice this opposite until you come to an equilibrium. When we learn this, it appears that we are in fact superimposing a certain idea, a certain thing that we feel it will be a good thing for me to learn it. So I practice it, and therefore I acquire that quality, not because I acquire that quality. Practically, I acquire that quality. I know how to do it, but I'm not really there. So you have to understand this is not the case, and certainly this is not what the Rambam is speaking about. The reason that a person can, by practice, change his whole orientation from being a kamson into a pazaron, a kamson, stingy to being generous and so on, is because he possesses all of these qualities in the neshama. To draw it from the neshama, you have to jump into it. You jump into it by practicing it. You practice it, that quality begins to surface. If you didn't have that quality, I've said all the time, you don't train a human being, you train a dog, because a dog doesn't have any of these qualities. A dog, even after he learns how to act. He doesn't know what he's doing. A human being, after he learns, he really knows and he relates to it, because he has that in his neshama, as a human being, that quality. So the meaning of Chacham, or Chacham in the real sense, is a Chacham whose Chacham is really multifaceted. There is nothing that he doesn't understand. Doesn't mean that he pursued everything. That's time dependent. But he can quickly orient himself in any Chacham. That's meant a Chacham be'etzem. Because he thinks at the neshama level, not on the practical Chochmah that he had a very developed level. When he sees, like we say, you go to China, you see a different architecture, a different language. He does not see it superficially. This is symbolism. This is how you communicate. He goes back to the depth of the source of it. That's what you mean. This is why this is how it's represented. He has understanding this from its inception. That's what the Chach. To take this one step further, I'm sorry, but people always said, no matter whoever meets the Rebbe, no matter whoever, it could be a person which is diametrically opposed, completely opposite of the Rebbe's beliefs and Rebbe's orientation. The Rebbe will be able to relate to him smoothly, and now think, he really understands me, he really respects me. Because the Rebbe related to the essence of the person, not to how he speaks. Why? Because the Rebbe he had a different. He didn't need to learn about you in order to know you. So this is what we say. When you say Chacham only for the purpose of Lishloi HaHepech, only to negate the opposite. In other words, not that you this kind of Chacham because he knows a certain line of thought. But Lishloi HaHepech, that's talking in very general terms, where the Chacham does not limit him in a certain Chochmah. Only the reason you call him a Chacham is because he is not a Chacham. So there, Harei Zeh Chacham be'etzem. That one is a Chacham be'etzem. In other words, he is relating to the principle of Chochmah. Not that he's not related to the Chacham in principle. He's definitely related to the principle of Chochmah. That's why you call him a Chacham. Again, the Rebbe is trying to point out that is also a toyar. It's a quality that he possesses, that he is identified with. Rak except she'ein bebchinas chochma yidiyah. His chochma be'etzem means ein bebchinas chochma yidiyah. His chochma is not bebchinas chochma yidiyah. Meaning, how is he a chochma? Oh, he knows architecture. He knows Gemara. He knows whatever it is. That's how you learn to go with Chochmah Yidiyah. He has this ability. This Chochmah. It's not an identifiable Chochmah. That Chochmah, you call him Chochmah only Lishloi HaHepech. Not because you're trying to identify him in any kind of a definitive mode. Nevertheless, you have to say, this thing, he is a Chacham be'etzem. That is what defines him as a Chacham. It is a definition. Peloche, and for this reason, alidei toyare hashlilo, via utilization of the toyare hashlilo of these theorem of negation, even though they are just very general negation, it is possible to acquire some knowledge, some cognizance of this thing itself. Because this Torah is really defining, referring to the thing itself. Like we said just a moment ago, that real Chokhmah is that which is representative of the Neshama itself. The Neshama itself is the broader, the truth of life. Neshama is a Godly representation. Which is referring to a primary truth. But if he say that he's a Chocham b'tir hashlila, where does that Chochma come from? This idea, what is a neshama? What is a human being? By describing things, a Chocham, that leads you, that connects you to a son. What is a human being? So therefore, there is a real reference to the Mitzias of the Mishakotim Ligut Teira, Ba'abiyah Dei Pekudi Mishem Meher Amer Nevuchi. Ve'yim Hoyu. Yeah.
It seems obvious, actually, to Torah Shlila that he's a Chacham is a Torah. And what's
no, because you're not thinking of Torah Shlila. You're thinking of Torah Hachiv. A Chacham, like we said before. So the Rebbe said there's no definition. The minute we start thinking, we say, what does he look like? And we say, no, he doesn't have that. Because we are projecting, I know him, I know what I'm talking about. What is the meaning of a person who is at all times open to understanding anything that comes upon it? How is that? How is that what you learned yesterday helping to understand what he's learning today?
You're saying we can't picture that.
No, you can't picture it. You can't even define it. When you approach to learn something, you have to learn. Oh, I know what learning is. I learned yesterday. I've experienced it.
But even to think on a more abstract level, that not that he's coming with any particular approach or anything, but just that, like you said, like the way you're describing it, basically, you're describing a Chacham Ve'etzem.
It's not a quality, though. It's not a known quality. When you teach a child, is he learning or is he not learning? How is he learning? Is he a chacham? Let's go to our, you have to stop this one, to our classic example of the man lying in the gutter. And you say, you're lying in the gutter. And he say, leave me alone, I'm silent and happy over here. You know that he is lying. Because you know, be'etzem he is a human being. What does that mean? What does that mean? It's not, so to speak, a knowable quality. Well, it's an essential quality. Chai be'etzem, a human being be'etzem. So the effort that Rebbe, the point that Rebbe is making is that too is a toyar. Being that this is also a toyar that defines a certain definitive quality, even though it is not limiting in Chochmah Idea. Nonetheless, because it's a toyar, it's not applicable to Atzmos. You have to have an entity which you're describing with this toyar. This toyar is so neutral and so all-encompassing. There is no entity. Doesn't begin from anything. Not beginning from yesterday's experience. It doesn't begin from anything. Nevertheless, it's a toyar. Now you see, it really is elusive. That's what it says. Gam king toyar. There's also a limiting factor in this, even though it's a Rebbe Chochmah idea.
Gamken Toyar is pointing out the shortcoming, or that it's actually useful in Gamken Toyar.
Gamken Toyar means that it's a limiting statement. It can only be applied to something that has a presence.
Ah. So it's not of value in this. It's not a descriptor. It is.
It is not neutral to a presence. It cannot be applied to Atzmus. It's not a presence.
So hence, it's not a useful approach.
It is very useful, but it doesn't. Wait a second.
Doesn't get to.
In what way is not useful? The point is that Atzmus is beyond that. Okay, 1 second. Therefore, since Atzmus is beyond that, to explain how oil comes from Atzmus, we are taught as a loss, because he has no toyer whatsoever, not even toyer hashnila. The nefesh does not possess life. Doesn't possess life as a possession. A chacham be'etzem does not possess chachma. Yet, when you approach him with a question, you expect an answer. How do you expect an answer? Because he has something that is like that in that realm of chachma. That chachma will produce the answer.
He has some identifiable quality that expresses as chachma.
Okay, this identify. That's what we're saying. It's not identifiable. It's all shlila. It's not identifiable. Identifiable means he possesses chachma.
Right. He has some unidentifiable.
Others.
Yeah. You can't point to this particular.
He doesn't have a possession. Like I said,
right.
A wealthy person has a possession of wealth. Another doesn't possess anything.
Right. So similar that the sun is. There's no light.
There's no light. Exactly. Nevertheless, we can call and understand how, if you solicit light, it'll give you light. If you solicit chokhmah, it'll give you chokhmah. Okay, we overstayed. Okay, let's get together now. Okay, this is it for this morning.